Hi, this is Dave, and I'm recording my comments this week on my iPhone. I'll be uploading them to YouTube and put a link to it, to the YouTube video in the discussion area. So I'm just going to upload it without editing it, so it might be a little on the raw side, but hopefully not too bad. But it'll be immediate, I'll guarantee that. What I'm going to discuss is Mary Meeker's article, really a PowerPoint presentation on internet trends that was in the Business Insider website. She's the managing director for Morgan Stanley and the head of the firm's global technology research unit. She included a lot of, for me, eye-opening statistics and graphics in her presentation. Some of these we've heard before, others were new to me, but seeing them all together and seeing some of the graphic representations that she put in her PowerPoint really, for me, I found eye-opening. What I'd like to do is discuss several of the points. I'd like to go over some of her bullet points and then discuss a little more about several points that she made related to mobile use and advertising especially. First, some of the trends. There are 2.4 global internet users, an 8% increase in the last year, largely driven by developing nations. A lot of the more developed nations aren't growing nearly as fast as they used to. There are 1 billion smartphone subscribers in the world, a 42% growth, but they are still 17% of all mobile devices. There are roughly 1 in 5 mobile devices are smartphones. There's a tremendous upside here to get the other 4 out of 5 to convert to smartphones. One observation here, smartphone users represent almost half of the total number of internet users. Smartphone use is growing faster than internet use. Some interesting tidbits about tablets. iPads are growing in numbers faster than iPhones did since their adoption, and iPhones in turn grew faster than iPods. 29% of all Americans own tablets or readers, up from 2% of Americans 3 years ago. Back to global. Global mobile traffic is 13% of total internet traffic and growing rapidly. In 2010, it was 4%. In India, mobile traffic surpassed desktop traffic in May 2012, and the rest of the world eventually is expected to follow. This is especially interesting to me. Revenues from mobile, ad revenues, have grown from 0 to $19 billion between 2008 and 2012. Excuse me, that's not all advertising. 2/3 of that are from apps, 1/3 from advertisements. An observation related to this point is that media should have some confidence that this will continue to grow, and that should in my opinion, maybe lessen the perceived risk of jumping into the mobile advertising markets. Mobiles and tablets were 24% of online shopping on Black Friday 2012 versus just 6% 2 years ago. The percent, and here is something that I hadn't really heard in all of the talk about the great migration to mobile devices. I hadn't heard this before. The percentage of ad spending in mobile media at 1% is really lagging the time spent, which is 10% in relation to the other medias and the other channels. So again, while 10% of people spend time on mobiles, or people spend 10% of their time on mobiles, they only 1% of advertising is held by mobiles compared to the others. To me, this suggests a potential a big upside in potential ad growth. Between the internet and mobile, there's potential for $20 billion in ad growth, Meeker says, to get revenue up to the same percentage as the time spent on those in those areas. So from she makes a lot of other observations, but just based on some of these, I drew a few conclusions. It will undoubtedly be scary, but I think you could reasonably expect to see many more jumping into online advertising in great numbers pretty soon. And here's why. Meeker points out something that the others do not. As I said, the huge upside here, the potential that exists for online ad growth because of the disparity of the time people now spend online compared to the ad revenue spent online. Expect this untapped potential to become actuality before much longer, in my opinion. In the process, two principles from Heath's book, Switch, that we read last week, could really come into play here. The first principle is shrink the change. As the potential grows, the potential being the gap between the time and the ad revenue, the perceived risk will shrink. Media will perceive the migration to online ad revenue as a smaller change than it was just recently, and it has been. The second principle is rallying the herd. If this does come to pass, and as media move increasingly into online advertising and begin fulfilling this potential, the migration of the herd could be expected to accelerate. Changed perceptions will lead to changed behaviors, which will lead to fulfilled or nearly so potential as far as the ad revenue goes. So that was some of what I got out of Meeker's presentation. Again, there's an awful lot more there, and if I get a chance I might post some more on some of her other points, but to me it really offered some reason for hope and high expectations for those who are willing to go ahead and make that jump into mobile advertising.